Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to show you some fingering options for the major scale 2 chords that I covered in the last lesson. First off, if you like the diagrams for everything in this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. And this e-guide will be something that you can study and use as a reference for years to come. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download it. But I am working on it as I'm filming this lesson, so if it's available, a link will pop up on the screen that will allow you to download it. If no link appears, you can look in the description and it'll say whether it's available or coming soon. And if it's not available yet, you can sign up for our mailing list and we'll send you a copy as soon as it is available. Also, if you're signed up for our mailing list, you'll receive all updated versions as well. But don't worry, you don't need the e-guide to follow along with this lesson because all of the charts will be on the screen. And also be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day. This is part 4.4 from our series Music Theory for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So just like I showed you fingerings for the major scale 1 chords, I'm going to show you fingerings for the major scale 2 chords that we just covered. And again, I'm not going to show you all the options. That would be way too many to even try to come close to covering this lesson. Again, this is a theory lesson. And the ones I'm going to show you are going to start with a 6-string root. I'm not going to show you inversions or different string sets because you're going to understand the theory just by me showing you this. And like I said before, you can use this theory and build your own chord dictionary. Or you can download our e-guides that are about chords. So I have one on beginning chords. If you still are learning open chords and beginner chords, you can download that. Or I have a bunch of lessons on more advanced chords and an e-guide that I'm still working on right now that'll be coming out that's about intermediate and advanced chords. So you can download that as well. And that's going to give you a ton of options for different fingerings and covering all the string sets. But like I said, this is a theory lesson, but it's going to help you understand how these chords actually are laid out practically on the fretboard. So here I've taken the major scale and shifted the root to the second note of the major scale, and I put it in the key of C. So this is the C right here. If this was the major scale, it would be right here. This would be the root of the major scale. This would be your whole step, half step, and so on. And we already did that in the last lesson, but I had it in a different key just so I could have it farther down on the fretboard. But now I've just shifted it to the key of C, and this is covering the whole fretboard so that I can show you how these notes create those chord fingerings. And since this is in the key of C, these are all going to be C minor chords. So the first thing we're going to do is start with a basic C minor chord. And you know that a C minor is just a root, flat 3 and 5. And this is a basic bar chord that has only root, flat 3, 5, and they're doubled up. So this is an E minor shape bar chord. If you know anything about bar chords, this is one of the first minor bar chords you would learn when you start getting into bar chords. And if we go back to the scale laid out on the whole fretboard, it lies right here. So those are the notes of the C minor bar chord. So the first thing we're going to do is get to a C add 9 because it's easy to get to from this. We're going to take this root and move it up a whole step to the 9, and that's going to give us a C minor add 9 chord. Or another version of a C minor add 9. This is a really full version because it's using all the strings. It's got a big stretch in it to go from this fret all the way to this fret. Another version you can play is moving the flat 3 to here, moving the 5 to here, and moving the 9 to here, and then taking out the doubled up notes. So you'd end up with this voicing. So that's another way you could play a C minor add 9 chord. And then we're going to go back to the C minor bar chord, and from here we're going to get to a C minor 7. So that's easy to do from here. We're just going to move our root back half a step this time, and that'll give us a C minor 7 chord. And this is a really full sounding common way to play a C minor 7 chord. You're using all the strings for this voicing. And you'll notice that if you take out this 5 and this root, you end up with the drop 2 minor 7 chord. So this is a drop 2 C minor 7 chord. And then if you move the 5 up an octave, like you should remember, that'll give you the drop 3. So that's a drop 3 C minor 7 chord, and this is a really common way to play minor 7. Then from here, if we take out this 5, then we just end up with the C minor 7 shell voicing that you should remember. And from here, from the shell voicing, we're going to take this flat 7 and move it back half a step, and that's going to give us a C minor 6 shell voicing. So this is a common way to play a C minor 6, is the shell voicing. You've left out the 5. And I didn't cover it when we talked about shell voicings again because I was only talking about 7th chords when we were talking about shell voicings the first time. And then of course from this shell voicing you can actually make it the whole voicing and add the 5th in right here. That just gives you a regular C minor 6th. Or you can move the 5th up an octave. That's another way to play a C minor 6. Or if we move this flat 3 back half a step, that would be the 9th, the 2 or the 9th, but we're calling it a 9 because of the voicing we're creating, and move this 3 to right here, this flat 3, then we have a C minor 6 add 9 chord that you can play. And this is a really tough voicing to hold. It's pretty tough to actually finger this until you're pretty advanced and are used to more advanced chords. So you could just take out the 5th and make it a lot easier to fret this chord, and that still would be a C minor 6 add 9, because as you should remember, the 5th is the first note that can come out without really affecting the chord at all. Next, if we go back to the C minor 6 chord, we can add in the 9th right here, and that would give us another voicing of the C minor 6 add 9. And this is a full voicing of it using all the intervals, but it's easier to play than the first one I showed you. It's easier to finger. Next, if we move the 6 up half a step to the flat 7, then we would get a C minor 9 chord, because then we have the flat 7, flat 3, and the 9. That gives you a C minor 9 chord. And then if we go back to the drop 3 C minor 7 for a second, there's one more chord that we can get, which is a really common chord to play, and that's a C minor 11. And you do that by dropping the 5 back a whole step to the 11, and that's because the 11 is the same as the 4, but we're creating a C minor 11 chord, so it's called an 11, so that's how you would get a C minor 11. And technically a C minor 11 has a 9th in it, but this is a really common way to play C minor 11, and technically it would be called a 7 add 11 because the 9th's out, but like I mentioned in the previous lesson, you don't have to get that technical with names most of the time. You can get away with calling this a C minor 11, you're just implying that the 9 is in there. You don't have to have all the intervals in every chord. But if you wanted to get really technical about the name, you call it a minor 7 add 11 because you have the 7th but no 9, so you need to say add 11. But I would just call this a C minor 11, and most people do who play this voicing. So those are some common fingering options for playing the 2 chords of a major scale. Like I said, I'm just showing you some options starting with the 6-string root. If you want those other options, you can download these e-guides that I've created that show a whole bunch of different options for playing these. But this should give you the theory that you need to understand what's going on, and hopefully give you the theory to be able to create your own chord dictionary, like I said. And go ahead and move on to the next lesson where I'm going to show you chords built off the 3rd note of the major scale. So I'm going to show you 3 chords. And be sure to download the e-guide, the Music Theory for Guitar e-guide, because all these diagrams are in there. And be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day.